What if I told you that the greatest battle of your life is not happening in your job, your relationships, or the world around you, but inside your own mind? Think about it. Every day, the smallest things have the power to shake us. One unexpected text can ruin our peace. A stranger's opinion can poison our confidence, and a single mistake can send us spiraling into a storm of self-criticism and doubt. We scroll, we compare, we react, and somewhere along the way, we lose the quiet, unshakable strength we were meant to carry. The truth is harsh. Most people aren't truly living. They're simply responding to everything around them, pulled by every emotion, every distraction, every fear. The Stoics saw this long before the modern world existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That wasn't just philosophy, it was a weapon, a shield, a reminder that the moment you stop fighting what you cannot control, you become untouchable, unbreakable, free. Today, you and I are going to uncover 8 Stoic principles that can rewire your mind so deeply. Nothing and no one will be able to disturb your peace again. This isn't motivation. This is mental armor. Before we begin, comment below. I am unshakable. Now, let's start your training. 1. Embrace discomfort like a friend. Why do we run from the very things that could make us stronger? The cold, the silence, the pain, the confrontation. We treat them like enemies we must avoid instead of teachers we should learn from. We crave warmth, validation, convenience. But every step toward comfort takes a step away from resilience. We live in a world where a weak Wi-Fi signal feels like suffering, where a minor inconvenience can send us spiraling. Yet the truth is simple and brutal. Comfort has become the most silent poison of modern life. It numbs your potential. It softens your discipline. It makes you forget how powerful you really are. Seneca once wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power." Meaning, when you willingly step into hardship, fear loses its teeth. The Stoics trained for difficulty, not because they were addicted to pain, but because they understood the oldest law of strength. The body and mind grow only through resistance. Look at Marcus Aurelius. He faced war, plague, betrayal, loss, and yet he ruled himself before he ever ruled an empire. His power didn't come from privilege. It came from choosing discomfort as a daily companion. Now think about your life. When did you grow the most? Not the easy, peaceful seasons, but the moments that broke you open. When life pulled the rug out from under you. When plans shattered. When you had to rebuild from nothing. That's where your real character was forged. Discomfort is the furnace of transformation. Every cold shower you take, every early morning you rise when you want to hide under the covers, every difficult truth you speak instead of burying it. These are the small battles that carve out who you truly are. Modern society tells you to chase pleasure and run from pain, but Stoicism whispers the opposite. Train for hardship so no external force can ever own your emotions again. Every voluntary discomfort is the rehearsal for the storms life will throw at you. When you step into the cold by choice, you stop fearing the cold. When you choose discipline over ease, you become the master, not the puppet. Stepping from the lesson of embracing discomfort, we move into the next truth. What happens when you consistently choose the hard path over the easy one? When you pick discipline over ease and growth over comfort, you prove something powerful to yourself, that you are the master, not the puppet. So begin small. Stand under a cold shower and feel the shock hit your skin, yet resist the instinct to escape. Sit in complete silence and fight the urge to reach for your phone. Go train on the day your mind whispers, "Not today." Walk into the conversation you've been avoiding, the truth you've been postponing, like a burden you've been afraid to open. Each moment you lean toward discomfort rather than retreat from it, you rewire your nervous system. You're teaching your mind a new language, that pain isn't danger, it's information, data, a signal to grow. And here's the secret most people never realize. The man who suffers willingly can never truly suffer again. Why? Because he has turned pain into practice, transformed discomfort into a familiar companion. What others fear, he faces. What others flee, he studies. To him, discomfort is no longer chaos, it's clarity, the sharpening stone against which his will becomes unbreakable. Your action today: choose one small discomfort and embrace it fully. Don't hesitate. Don't negotiate with your weaker self. Just do it. Affirmation: discomfort is my training ground. 2. Control your emotions before they control you. You can master every skill, every strategy, every rule for success. But if you fail to master your emotions, you become a slave to them. One insult and your peace collapses. One failed plan and frustration takes the wheel. A tiny trigger can turn you into a puppet, pulled by invisible strings. It's rarely life that defeats us. It's our reaction to life. Most people believe emotions are commands we are forced to obey, but they are not orders. They are messengers, and messengers should be listened to, not worshipped. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Those 13 words are the foundation of emotional freedom. When you understand that every external event must pass through the filter of your interpretation, you reclaim power. No one can disturb your peace without your permission. Insults, rejection, failure, they're all neutral until your mind paints them as pain. But modern life teaches the opposite. React instantly, post immediately, argue, prove, defend. We confuse self-expression with self-control. Yet the Stoics knew the truth. Reaction is weakness wearing the mask of honesty. Strength isn't suppressing emotions, it's structuring them. It's pausing, breathing, and choosing your response like a warrior choosing his strike. That pause, those 2 or 3 seconds between stimulus and reaction, is where your power lives. Next time anger rises, don't rush into battle. Watch it, feel it, quietly label it. This is anger. And instantly, distance appears. The storm is still raging, but you're no longer trapped inside it. You're standing safely on the shore, watching the waves crash instead of drowning in them. Imagine how your day would change if you lived this way. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You breathe instead of curse. A co-worker criticizes you. You pause instead of retaliate. It's in these small victories that emotional mastery is forged. And this emotional control becomes even clearer when the people closest to you pull away, when a loved one withdraws. Instead of spiraling into fear or overthinking, you choose to listen, truly listen. Each time you do this, you strengthen a deeper kind of discipline, the kind that quietly turns into peace. Marcus Aurelius lived through betrayal, rumors, invasion, and war, and yet he still wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Those words weren't meant to soothe, they were meant to command. He understood a truth most people never grasp. Emotional chaos is self-created when we try to control what lies beyond our reach. The Stoic path never asks you to become numb or hollow. It asks you to become sovereign. You still feel everything: the hurt, the uncertainty, the disappointment. But nothing owns you. Nothing dictates your behavior unless you allow it. So begin with the simplest ritual. Pause, breathe, question. Pause before reacting. Breathe before speaking. Question before assuming. And then ask yourself the one question that can save your peace. Is this within my control? If the answer is no, then it isn't worth your inner stability. You cannot stop emotions from arriving. They will always come, but you can stop them from taking the throne in your mind. And this is what Stoicism truly teaches. Not coldness, but composure. Not detachment from life, but mastery within it. Because the man who can sit calmly in the middle of chaos is the rarest and most formidable kind of man. While everyone else is burning, he is building. While others crumble, he remains steady. Your action today, in one situation that frustrates you, practice the 3-step ritual. Pause, breathe, question, then watch how the entire moment shifts. Affirmation: I respond, I don't react. And this is why the Stoics reminded us again and again: do the right thing because it is right, not because it guarantees a reward. Marcus Aurelius lived through plagues, wars, betrayal from those closest to him, and yet he never cursed his fate or demanded fairness from the world. Instead, he wrote, you can commit injustice by doing nothing. His point was sharp and simple. The only injustice you truly control is the injustice you commit. What others do lies beyond your reach, and therefore far beneath your concern. When you cling to the expectation of fairness, you become emotionally fragile. A single disappointment feels like a personal attack. Every loss feels like a wound. But the moment you accept that life is not fair, something shifts. You become unbreakable because nothing can shock you anymore. Every setback becomes training. Every rejection becomes a lesson in resilience. Every failure becomes a mirror showing you where to grow next. Instead of asking, why me? You begin asking, what now? Think of it this way. Rain doesn't fall evenly, but it falls on everyone. The Stoic doesn't stand in the storm complaining. He adjusts his sails and keeps moving. Life is not a courtroom where justice is guaranteed. It's a battlefield. Fairness is never promised, but discipline is always available. You've felt it before. The pain of being overlooked, misunderstood, or blamed for something you didn't do. But even Seneca was exiled by the very emperor he served faithfully. Even Socrates was sentenced to death for speaking truth. If the greatest minds in history couldn't escape unfairness, what makes you think you will? Stoicism never asked you to make life fair. It asked you to make yourself strong enough to face life when it's not. So how do you apply this? When something feels unfair, pause. Remind yourself this isn't personal. It's the nature of things. Then redirect that emotional energy toward discipline. Channel the pain into practice. If the world refuses to give you fairness, give yourself what is within your control: effort, integrity, and clarity. The moment you stop demanding fairness, you start living with power, because fairness is external, but dignity comes from within. The Stoic chooses to act with justice, not to be treated justly. That is what separates a victim from a warrior. Your action today, when something feels unfair, say to yourself, it wasn't supposed to be fair. It was supposed to make me stronger. Affirmation: fairness is not promised. discipline is. 4. Focus only on what you can control. So naturally, the next principle rises from this truth. How much of your life is wasted trying to control what was never yours? You worry about what people think, what they'll say, how they'll respond. You plan outcomes, script conversation, imagine scenarios as if the universe is following your blueprint. And when things don't go your way, you spiral, you panic, your peace collapses. But most of what keeps you awake at night lives completely outside your control. Epictetus, born a slave, yet becoming one of history's greatest philosophers, mastered a rule that many free men never learn. Some things are up to us and some are not. That's the entire map of freedom in one sentence. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. Your thoughts, actions, choices. These are yours. Other people, outcomes, the past, the weather, the future. These are not. The moment you forget this boundary, you suffer. You cannot control what others say, but you can control what you repeat to yourself. You cannot control how long you live, but you can control how you live. And building on that same truth, another reminder becomes clear. You cannot control whether someone loves you, but you can always control whether you love with integrity. True freedom begins the very moment you stop trying to rewrite what has already been written by fate. Most people are exhausted, not because life is unbearably hard, but because they spend their days fighting battles they were never meant to fight. They argue with reality. They push to change people who have no desire to transform. They chase outcomes they cannot force, clinging to situations that were never under their command. But the Stoic doesn't waste his strength that way. He asks one simple, razor-sharp question. Is this within my control? If the answer is no, he releases it, not out of weakness, but because his energy is sacred. Imagine your inner peace as a fortress. Every moment you worry about things beyond your control, you open its gates and usher chaos inside. But when you focus only on what belongs to you, your thoughts, your actions, your character, you become untouchable. The world can shake, but you remain centered. You stop drifting like a leaf blown by the wind and become the rooted tree that holds its ground through every storm. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He ruled an empire surrounded by enemies, yet wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Even as storms raged around him, his calm stayed unshaken because he mastered the game. The outer world is noise, the inner world is command. You can lose everything and still remain undefeated if your mind stays under your own authority. Start today with a simple ritual. Take a piece of paper and draw 2 circles. Circle 1, what I can control. Your effort, your words, your attitude. Circle 2, what I cannot control. Other people's opinions, luck, time. Whenever anxiety rises, look at that paper and remind yourself, my peace belongs inside the first circle. Let go of the illusion of control. It was never freedom. It was a cage. A Stoic warrior doesn't waste arrows shooting at the wind. He aims only at targets he can actually hit. And that's why his strength never runs out. Your action today. Draw your 2 circles. When the storm comes, stand firmly inside the one that belongs to you. Affirmation, I control my actions, not the world. And that is enough. 5. Practice voluntary hardship, because now we face another truth. What if the comfort you cling to is the very thing slowly destroying your strength? We've built our lives around avoiding pain, and in the process we've forgotten how to endure it. heated homes, instant meals, soft chairs, yet fragile minds. We've confused comfort with safety, but comfort has never made anyone safe. It only makes you dependent. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. The human spirit decays without resistance. Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days in which you will be content with the scantiest fare and rough clothing, and ask yourself, is this the condition I feared?" This wasn't poverty, it was training. He called it voluntary hardship, a rehearsal for misfortune before misfortune arrives. Because once you've learned to live with less by choice, the loss of luxury no longer frightens you. When you choose discomfort on your own terms, you become nearly immune to the discomfort life will eventually force on you. Modern life has taken the opposite path. We chase pleasure at every turn. Scrolling, snacking, streaming, soothing. We numb our anxiety instead of strengthening our spirit. We fear boredom. We fear silence. We fear hunger. We fear being alone. But these fears are signals, invitations to train. The Stoic doesn't wait for hardship to arrive. He walks into it deliberately, like a soldier sharpening his sword before the war begins. Imagine what your life would look like if for just 1 week you chose the harder path on purpose. Wake up earlier than you want to. Take a cold shower and feel the sting without running from it. Skip the unnecessary meal. Walk instead of drive. And as you keep choosing these small acts of courage, one thing becomes clear. Every difficult step you take reshapes your mind. That conversation you've been avoiding, the moment you finally face it, your brain learns that struggle isn't danger, it's growth. Little by little, you're teaching yourself that discomfort is not a threat, but a signal of strength. The modern mind collapses under the slightest stress because it has never been trained to carry weight. But a disciplined mind, a mind forged intentionally, thrives the moment challenge appears. Remember, Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he trained his spirit daily through restraint. He lived simply, ate modestly, dressed plainly, and used humility as a sharpening blade. He didn't need luxury to feel powerful, because real power never comes from possessions. It comes from self-command. And here's the truth. When you can endure voluntarily, you stop fearing the pain that life will inevitably force on you. This practice isn't punishment, it's preparation. Life will take things from you, health, people, money, comfort. But if you've practiced letting go before life demands it, you won't collapse when the losses arrive. You'll adapt, you'll breathe, you'll stay moving, steady, and strong, because hardship no longer surprises you. It simply becomes another rep in your mental gym. So here's your challenge. Just 2 small hardships this week. Maybe it's a cold shower. Maybe it's skipping sugar. Maybe it's waking up an hour earlier. Whatever it is, do it without complaining. Let the discomfort remind you you're alive, capable, and training for something far greater than comfort. Because the truth is brutally simple. Comfort never made anyone strong. Challenge did. Every time you choose the hard road when the easy one is right there waiting, you reclaim another piece of your freedom. Your action today. Choose one discomfort and face it by choice, not by chance. Affirmation. I train in peace to stand unbroken in chaos. 6. Detach from outcomes. Love the process. And this leads straight into the next principle. Everywhere you look, people are addicted to results. They measure their worth by likes, numbers, money, attention. When they win, they feel alive. When they lose, they crumble. Life becomes a scoreboard, and in the process, they forget how to actually play the game. The Stoics saw this trap clearly. The moment your peace depends on results, you've already surrendered control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same reason you use today." That single line holds the cure to modern anxiety. Because every time you obsess over outcomes, you abandon the present, the only place where your power actually exists. You don't control the reward, you only control the work. You don't own the harvest, you only own the planting. The Stoic mind understands this deeply. Success is a byproduct, not the pursuit. Think about it. How often do you poison your own progress by demanding it to look a certain way? You start a project and expect instant results. You go to the gym for a week and already judge yourself. You open your heart and expect someone to mirror your effort. And when they don't, you suffer. Not because you failed, but because you attached your peace to something that was never yours to control. You confuse effort with entitlement, but the Stoic doesn't play that game. He acts with discipline and detaches from results because his fulfillment comes from the act itself. And when you detach, something incredible happens. Your focus sharpens. You stop worrying about how things should unfold and pour all your energy into doing the work well. You shift from performance to presence, and that one shift alone makes you far more effective, because now you're operating from your highest potential, not from your fear of failing. Seneca said, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." Detachment isn't apathy, it's mastery. It means you care deeply about the process, but not about the applause. Let's make this real. And once you understand that the process is your true power, it becomes clear why the Stoics moved with such discipline. Because you can't control whether your business succeeds, but you can control your effort and integrity every single day. You can't control how quickly your body transforms, but you can control whether you show up and train. And you can't control whether people appreciate your honesty, but you can choose to speak the truth anyway. The outcome belongs to fate. The process belongs entirely to you. Here's a simple practice to anchor that mindset. At the start of every morning, write one sentence. Today I'll focus only on what I can do, not what I want to happen. Then, whatever you're working on, treat it like something sacred, because it is. The process is where virtue lives, where character grows, where peace quietly hides. Detaching doesn't mean you care less. It means you act better. You love the process not because it guarantees success, but because it builds a version of you that remains unshakable even in failure. The Stoic doesn't sprint toward the finish line. He masters every step along the way. Your action today: write down one goal, then beneath it write, "The result is not mine, the effort is." Affirmation: I am proud of effort, not outcome. 7. Remember death. Live urgently. And this next principle is the one that shocks most people awake. Most wander through life as if they'll live forever. They postpone their dreams, they delay forgiveness, they waste years preparing to begin. But the clock does not wait. Every day that passes is a day you can never reclaim. The Stoics had a phrase for this: memento mori. Remember that you will die. At first it sounds dark, but in truth, it's the most powerful reminder to live. Seneca wrote, "It's not that we have a short life, but that we waste much of it." He wasn't warning us about death. He was warning us about distraction. We drown in trivial things, scrolling, gossiping, worrying about opinions, while the moments that make us alive quietly slip through our fingers. And when you finally realize that every breath brings you closer to your final one, suddenly the noise fades. Suddenly what matters becomes obvious. The Stoic doesn't fear death because he's too busy living deliberately. He sees each sunrise as a gift already paid for, each conversation as possibly the last, each act of kindness as something sacred. When you remember death, you stop postponing your humanity. You stop waiting for someday because you understand something crucial. Someday is not a date, it's a myth. Think about how often you say, I'll start when things calm down. I'll apologize when the time feels right. I'll chase my dream when I'm ready. But you will never feel ready. The perfect moment never arrives. Life is not a rehearsal, it's the main act. Every delay is a small betrayal of the time you've been given. The Stoic chooses urgency, not panic. Urgency means being awake. It means knowing that every minute spent in fear or resentment is a minute stolen from purpose. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire in chaos, reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. To him, mortality wasn't a threat. It was a compass pointing him back to virtue, service, and presence. So ask yourself, if today were truly your last, what would you do differently? Who would you forgive? What truth would you finally speak? Which dream would you stop postponing? These questions are not meant to scare you. They're meant to wake you. Death doesn't make life meaningless. Death makes life precious. Try this tonight. Before going to bed, write down 3 things you would regret not doing if tomorrow never came. Then choose one and do it this week. And once you understand that urgency is a form of clarity, the next step becomes obvious. Stop waiting. Don't wait for inspiration, permission, or the mythical perfect time. Just act, because the only guarantee you truly have is this time is passing and you are still here to use it. To remember death is to live fully, to look it in the eye and still choose to create, to love, to serve. That is real courage. The Stoic doesn't chase immortality through fame or wealth. He earns it through how intensely he chooses to live while he's alive. Your action today, write 3 things you would regret leaving undone and do one of them now. Affirmation, I live like time is borrowed because it is. 8. Live by virtue, not validation. And this final principle brings everything together. At the end of your life, no amount of applause will save you. The likes, the praise, the admiration, they disappear faster than we expect. What remains is who you chose to be when no one was watching. Yet most people spend their entire lives performing for approval, chasing recognition like oxygen, terrified of being unseen. But the Stoic understands something deeper. The goal is not to be admired, it is to be aligned. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Even while surrounded by politics, flattery, and ambition, he chose virtue over validation. He understood that external praise is unstable currency. It can vanish overnight. But virtue is wealth the soul never loses. The modern world flips this wisdom upside down. We post to prove, we speak to be heard, we live to be seen. We seek our identity through the eyes of strangers and then wonder why we feel hollow. Here's the truth. When your worth depends on validation, you become a prisoner of perception. You begin living cautiously, constantly adjusting yourself to fit expectations. You become polite instead of honest, liked instead of respected, visible but empty. The Stoic refuses this trade. He acts with integrity whether or not anyone applauds, because virtue is not performance, it is principle. It is doing what's right when it costs you something, especially when it costs you something. Think about it. Speaking the truth when lying would make you popular. Showing kindness when it gains you nothing. Keeping your word when no one would ever know if you didn't. These small, invisible moments define your soul far more than any achievement ever will. You don't need to announce your values to live them. Quiet strength has more gravity than loud approval. Seneca wrote, "A good character, when observed, delights, but when unseen, it still rejoices." Virtue is its own reward. When your life is aligned with your principles, you sleep peacefully, you walk lighter, you stop negotiating with your conscience. And even if the world misunderstands you, mocks you, or opposes you, their judgment no longer reaches you because you're no longer performing for them. You're serving your own standard. This is the heart of Stoicism. And once you understand that virtue anchors you far more deeply than praise ever could, the final step becomes clear. To choose righteousness over recognition, consistency over applause, and character over comfort. Every decision you make becomes a quiet opportunity to prove your values, not to the world, but to yourself. Because when you no longer rely on the world's validation, the world can no longer control you. That is where true freedom begins. Try this simple practice. Choose one core value, honesty, courage, kindness, or discipline, and live it quietly for a single day. Don't post it online. Don't announce it to anyone. Just embody it. Notice how it shifts the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you think. That subtle transformation, that is virtue in motion. At the end of the day, the applause will fade, but the echo of your integrity will remain, and that echo will outlast every compliment you've ever received. Your action today. Choose one value and live it fully for 24 hours without telling anyone. Affirmation. I act from virtue, not for applause. You've just walked through 8 timeless Stoic principles, 8 ways to reclaim your power in a world that constantly tries to take it from you. These truths were never meant to make life easier. They were meant to make you stronger. Discomfort, control, acceptance, focus, discipline, detachment, urgency, virtue. Together they become your mental armor that no chaos, no betrayal, no storm can pierce. Because the goal is not to avoid the pain of life, but to endure it with grace. The Stoics never promised comfort. They promised clarity. And once you realize that nothing external can break the fortress within you, you become something rare. A human being who remains at peace, even in the heart of the storm. If these principles resonated with you, like the video, share it, and comment which reminder spoke to you most deeply. Let others join this training and whisper this to yourself before you leave. My mind is my fortress.